Meanwhile, President Trump getting closer to getting a deal done to repeal and replace Obamacare. But even if it is a big success, the question remains, will Democrats give him any credit for it? Let's ask Brad Woodhouse, the former director of communications for the DNC, and Dallas Woodhouse is here, executive director of the North Carolina GOP. I was going to go to you to start with, Dallas, because it's hard to see within the GOP there's also a subgroup that don't want it to pass. So if he does pass the House on, if it does pass the House on Thursday, when the vote's supposed to take place, who gets the victory?
Well, I think the president and Republicans, and of course, most importantly, the American people get the victory, Brian, because we are fulfilling the promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. And I think at the end of the day, President Trump is going to get a lot of credit because we have seen his negotiating skills and his ability to cut deals already having a positive effect on getting this legislation moving. And to quote one of the great American songs done by Fozzie Bear, he is just moving right along. And that is what the president needs to do here, and that is what he is doing.
Fozzie Bear no longer funded in the new budget. But let's talk about this, Brad. If this does pass the House, who gets the W, who gets the L?
Well, look, I think I want Trump to get all of the credit, and by credit I mean blame. I mean, look right now, President Trump is at 37% approval, the lowest approval of any president this early in his presidency, and Obamacare is at its highest approval ever. What he's going to get, Brian, is blame for transferring $1 trillion from people who are getting health care now to insurance company executives and to the wealthy, and for taking away health care from 24 million people. Brian, Donald Trump promised that no one would lose coverage. No one. In his replacement. 24 million people are going to lose coverage. So I hope he gets all the credit in the world for that.
It's very interesting because he's only getting some things in for conservatives that they wanted. We saw some of that already with them making the people on Medicaid who are single work the same way they did in welfare reform, right, Dallas? And he's adding some other things that conservatives are pushing for. But in the end, there's no Democrats around. Do you think there was a possibility that any Democrat would have worked with him, being that it clearly had problems in the best scenario? Do you think they made a mistake not going to Democrats at all?
See, I'm not convinced that that's right. I think they've tried to go to Democrats, but Democrats have maintained that there is no problem here with insurance companies dropping out of the exchanges all over the country.
That's a lie, Dallas.
A third of counties not having but one insurance provider. They are just convinced that Obamacare ought to stay in place. They're like those soldiers who kept fighting World War II in the 1970s.
Hey, Dallas.
But at some point, they were going to I'm convinced that some will come along eventually because that's the right thing to do.
Brad, you didn't think Democrats were convinced that Obamacare was failing?
Do I think Democrats are going to? No, Obamacare is not failing. The CBO report said that Obamacare is not failing. Look, this is the tactic
what about
of Republicans.
All the health care companies said it is in a death spiral?
Well, but healthcare companies, a lot of healthcare companies or a lot of insurance companies don't want to cover healthcare. Healthcare is not a great market to cover. People get sick. They'd rather cover against fire, which is more of a gamble. I mean, the truth of the matter is that every report, the American Association of Actuaries, the CBO have concluded that Obamacare is running fine. Dallas, what would explain the fact
that
the American people don't believe that?
What would explain?
You cannot even have a conversation if you think that.
I'll ask you and Brian. What would explain Obamacare being its most popular ever today as opposed to previously? It's because it's working and because Donald Trump is going to take away health care from 24 million people. People don't want their health care taken away.
Well, for the most part, you look at America with the premium so high, with the exchanges falling apart,
3%.
the only thing they have is writing a check on the deficit to expand Medicaid and money we don't have. But in the big picture, I'm very curious. I wish we all could be a fly on the wall as Ezekiel Emanuel goes to the White House today to talk to Tom Price and Paul Ryan. Hopefully they get something together. Woodhouse brothers, thanks so much.
We're moving right along.
Gotta go.